We're going to start this video with Doys Bluff cabin. It's pretty remote and located near Fort Wallace. When you get there, you'll find a cozy cabin right in the middle of the woods that gives off a really peaceful vibe. Unfortunately, that peace doesn't last long once you open the cabin door and step inside. Inside, you'll find two dead men in one of the most intriguing scenes in the game. At first glance, you might think they were murdered by a third party, but if you look at the crime scene a little more closely, you can come to a different conclusion. Near the bodies, there are two tools with blood fragments on them, each lying close to the other's hand. But the most interesting part is on the other side, at the dining table, where we can find a gold nugget sitting right on the table. According to one theory, the men fought over the nugget, each landing a fatal blow, ending up bleeding out to death right there. And since the cabin is pretty far from civilization, no one came to help. We can collect this highly sought after gold nugget and take it to the nearest fence. There we'll find out its market value is about $25. Adjusted to today's dollar, considering inflation and all, that would be around $800. So it's really sad to see these men end their lives and possibly a friendship over such a measly amount. The area around Emerald Ranch is home to many interesting spots. Among them, we have the Aberdeen Pig Farm. Although it might show up in a future episode of this series, that's not what I'm talking about now. Instead, it's the Osman Grove cabin. Once there, we'll find a beautiful house completely built of stone, even with a small chicken coop. The architecture of these places fascinates me a lot. Just imagine how amazing it would be to live in a gorgeous spot like that out in the middle of nowhere. But the magic fades quickly when we try to get inside the house. Strangely, both doors that lead inside are locked, so to get in, we have to use force. Inside, we come across one of the heaviest scenes in the entire game. A whole family dead, including the body of a small child. Something not very common in Rockstar games. In total, there are 5 people, most likely members of the same family since it was probably a couple of grandparents, a couple of parents, and their only child. Looking at the bodies, we don't find any fatal wounds, so what could have caused their deaths? This can be quickly figured out just by noticing the atmosphere of the place, which is filled with chimney smoke. Investigating a bit more, we see that the wood stove chimney is broken with all the smoke leaking inside the house, so the family ended up dying from smoke inhalation. But that alone wouldn't have been enough to kill them, since the family could have just left the place and saved themselves. But as we know, that wasn't possible because the doors were locked, which is really strange. Of course, in the real world that would be normal, right? After all, everyone locks their doors. But in Red Dead 2 that's not common, since usually all the doors to accessible rooms are open. This suggests someone might have caused the accident, locked the doors, and doomed the family to death. Another thing I find really odd is the position of the bodies. They're all doing something like sitting in a chair or the kid having fun with their toy. Victims of this kind of death are usually found trying to escape the situation, so it would make way more sense if we found the bodies trying to break down the door or open windows. The only logical explanation for the bodies being like that would be if everyone was just sleeping in their own spots, which we know doesn't really make much sense. But I came up with a pretty interesting theory considering all these factors, and I want to share it with you here. To me, in my opinion, someone really close to this family could be the one behind the crime. Just imagine, the person who cooked the meal, who prepared it, adding something to make everyone fall asleep right after eating. And after the meal, everyone started feeling sick and dozed off. That way, all the criminal had to do was move the chimney pipe, leave the place, and lock the doors. This was a theory I came up with, but I'm not 100% sold on it, man. I really struggle to explain what happened in that cabin. The cause of death is confirmed to be smoke inhalation, but I think this topic could easily make for a killer video full of theories about all the other factors, the locked door and everything else. Anyway, who knows, maybe I'll make a video about just this in the future, and if you want to see it, just drop a comment down below sharing your thoughts too. Let me know your take on this little theory I just came up with. To wrap up the video with a bang, I'm gonna talk about one of my favorite spots in the entire game. It's a house located on a big farm near the town of Rhodes, right at this point on the map. When you get there, you'll find a large property with plenty of crops and animals around. But the most interesting stuff is inside the house, because as soon as you head to the door, things start getting weird. You'll see bloodstains all over the floor. It gets even darker once you step inside, where you find one of the most brutal crime scenes in the whole game. A couple brutally murdered. The crime scene is so intense it almost looks like it was done by the serial killer Edmund Lauren Jr. And judging by the excessive amount of blood on the floor, splattered even on the walls, they don't seem to have been killed by gunshots, but by stabbing weapons instead. Looking closely at the bodies, we get confirmation of this since there are several cut marks running from the feet up to the neck. The woman's condition actually seems worse than the man's, as we even find broken bones on her. Examining the crime scene, we can see it's pretty messed up and full of footprints, most likely left by the perpetrator. We can follow all these tracks they left behind, which circle around the entire house and lead to the back of the property. There we'll find the perpetrator, or rather the perpetrator. This is a young woman who, driven by remorse over the crime she committed, decided to end her own life. On her left side we can find a revolver, which she used to fire the fatal shot to her forehead. On the other side there's a machete, the weapon she used to hack the couple to death. The motive for the crime can be found by looting her body, as we'll find a letter written by Claude. Claude is the name of the man who was murdered by the woman. The letter is addressed to Annette, the crime's author, who committed suicide. In the text, we find out that Annette was Claude's lover, with both having a little romantic relationship. At some point, Harriet, Claude's wife, discovered this affair and completely lost it. Despite the betrayal, she decided to give Claude one more chance, on the condition that he end things with his lover. The guy agreed to the terms and cut ties with Annette, taking the opportunity to keep his marriage going. As a result, Annette got pissed off since the man had made her all kinds of promises about true love, that they would live a really happy life together and all that. She was clearly pretty pissed off and just wouldn't accept the end of the relationship. She kept looking for Claude, trying to make him change his mind. She chased him all over the town of Rhodes. In one case, she even confronted him while he was with his wife in a store. Outraged by the situation, Claude wrote this letter demanding that the woman stop the stalking. He asked her to stop sending letters and even begged her to stay away from his wife. And well, we all know how this story ends. Fueled by the hate from that letter's ultimatum, Annette decided to go to the farm and put an end to all the pain she was feeling. I don't know about you, but this kind of detail is exactly what makes me fall in love with Red Dead 2. It's just so damn good, man, exploring the vast game world packed with stories. It really makes you feel like the map is alive and full of secrets waiting to be uncovered. I'm going to start this video talking about the flattened cabin. You've probably passed by this spot at some point. It's a cabin right in front of a small lake. The place itself is beautiful, making me wonder once again how amazing it would be to live somewhere like that. But of course, not everything's perfect. This place was hit by a major disaster. The cabin was struck by a huge tree that smashed right into its structure. Looking at the tree, we can see it wasn't cut down, but rather it fell on its own. I say on its own because a tree right next to it was cut down. So that might have weakened the roots, causing the bigger tree to fall. In other words, the tree didn't fall naturally, and sorry for the pun. Someone caused this, a human action. That someone is definitely the person who lived there. Judging by the cabin's construction and several other structures around the area, the person who lived in that cabin had solid woodworking skills, and the materials for their work were gathered right there in the region, since the whole area around the cabin has cut trees, both near the lake and just behind the house. But let's get to the point. Where is the resident of this cabin? Did they die in this accident? Well, the answer to that question is a real mystery. Even though the cabin's front door is locked, you can get inside by climbing up from the tree trunk and reaching the roof. Besides a precise tomahawk recipe tucked away in a locker, we didn't find anything really significant inside the cabin. There's no letter or even a body of the resident. The other side of the cabin is blocked off by a tree that splits the cabin right down the middle. But using photo mode, we can sneak a peek, just to find out there's nothing important in there either, besides some shelves stocked with supplies. So the fate of whoever lived here remains a real mystery. We're left only to come up with theories to try to find an answer. Could the resident have decided to leave the area after the accident? I don't think that makes much sense, since a lot of personal belongings are still inside the cabin. The most likely explanation maybe is that the resident is traveling and doesn't even know the accident happened. That would explain the locked door and the lack of a body. But what do you think about it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Sticking with the accident theme, we're going to talk about one of the most interesting cabins in the entire game, the Meteorite Cabin. This one was suggested by subscriber Vix. It's located near Roanoke Valley, perched on top of a hill, and like the others, it's super cozy with a stunning view of the forest. But the magic ends the moment you step inside, because you come across one of the most brutal scenes in the whole game, beating even the rhubarb farm, which I showed in the last episode of this series. 3 people were brutally murdered, and the cause of death is the most unexpected thing of all. A meteorite hit the cabin, one of them got seriously screwed and was hit dead on, ending up with their body in pieces, and judging by the state of the bodies and the heat smoke still coming off the meteorite, we can assume the accident happened recently. And even so, Arthur is still able to grab that rock with his hand, which must be insanely hot. Then he puts it right into his bag. But putting the physics stuff aside, just a few kilometers from this spot we can find a huge crater, which, like the cabin, also has a meteorite right in the center. Unlike the cabin, this meteorite caused major damage, creating a massive crater in the area. The impact was even strong enough to bend the nearby trees. So we can conclude that this area is plagued by meteorite falls, and the cabin's family ended up being a big victim of that. In fact, in this area, sometimes at night you can catch a beautiful meteor shower, which backs up our theory that the area is hit hard by meteorites. These events are probably a reference to the Tunguska event, where a meteorite crashed and caused a massive explosion. With an estimated power between 10 to 15 megatons, that force is about 1,000 times stronger than the Hiroshima bomb dropped by the United States during World War II. These meteorites are the subject of many interesting theories in Red Dead 2, even involving the scientist Marko Dragic, who has a lab nearby. I'll most likely drop a video just about this in the future, so if you're interested in watching it, just leave a comment down below asking for it. And to wrap up the video with a bang, I'm gonna talk about one of my favorite cabins. It's the Clausen's Rest cabin located near the town of Valentine, right here on the map. When you get there, you'll find the usual setup, a super cozy cabin sitting in a beautiful area. The cabin door is locked, so to get inside, you'll have to force it open. But once you step in, all the awe inspired by the natural beauty just ends, because you find two kids dead in a bed. And judging by the state of decomposition, they've probably been there for quite a while. When checking out the cabin, we find a letter written by none other than the boy's mother. In it, she says she went after the bandits who stole the family's money, and while she's away, she asks the boys not to open the doors or windows, not even for people they know. Before leaving, she also left enough food and water for 4 days, but mostly just as a precaution, since she says she'd probably be back home by the next day. Well, judging by the boy's condition, we can assume this letter was written quite a while ago, even though there's no date on it. And looking around the cabin, especially the kitchen, we can see the cause of death was definitely starvation, since all the food cans are open and empty. But now we're getting to the heart of the whole matter. What happened to the boy's mother? Well, there's a well-known and widely shared theory on Reddit. It's been around for a long time that the bandits who kidnapped the mother were the Porter family. They own a ranch pretty close to the cabin, and as you can see on the map, the ranch is located just a few kilometers from the cabin. In fact, this is the same ranch where we can do a robbery mission with Javier. During chapter 2 or 3, killing the whole family and grabbing a good amount of cash from the barn. During the mission's initial dialogue, Javier reveals that the family is well known and feared in the area because they're made up of kidnappers and thieves. So linking this to the farm's proximity to Clausen's Rest, we can assume the Porter family is possibly involved. But beyond these two factors, there's a third one that can back up this theory even more. If we go to the farm before the robbery mission with Javier, we can overhear a pretty interesting conversation between some of the brothers talking about something really disturbing they did to a woman.
You see that girl at the market? Googling at me again.
Googling at what a raggedy squirreler you is.
You sees when I get a woman like that, don't you? Frazzle dipping all the night.
Frazzle dipping your little pullywag, more like.
We has that one we keeps in the woods. Pappy was boiling when he sees her, don't you?
What the hickory's her name now?
Digs her up an ass, don't you? And next run to market, I combs my hair all flowy like I says to the girl, "Good morning, you watch now."
I tells you every time, no yakking in the market. Newt and Edie takes the wagon now, don't you? Now shut your gulpers and do it right on that ginseng.
Yeah, and as you could hear, they kept a woman locked up in the woods for some time, abusing her and committing all kinds of atrocities until the father of the family found out and they killed her, burying the woman somewhere near the farm. Unfortunately, there's no marked grave in the area, but I believe that with these three factors, we can be pretty sure that the woman was probably the boy's mother. There's still more to say about Clausen's Rest, like some bloodstains found under the boy's mother's bed. There are also other things discovered in the game's files showing that the story was originally meant to play out differently, but I won't get into that here in this video since that topic fits better in the next episode about removed content from Red Dead 2. Meanwhile, did you know Arthur was right from the start? In a video here on the channel, we break down why the gang never needed a traitor to fall apart and how internal decisions, distrust, and strategic mistakes led to their collapse in Red Dead Redemption 2. A deep dive into the real enemy inside the group, and it's not Micah. Just click right here next to the yellow arrow to get the full scoop on this theory. Big hugs and see you later. Bye.